Okay, guys, let's get started. It is 10:02 according to my clock. I have powered off my phone, so I will not be bothered over the next hour. This class should go 45 minutes or so. It is on lead generation. I've done this class several times. One of the biggest challenges that agents face is how to generate leads. And oftentimes they attend classes. I finished last week, 2 weeks ago, a 7-part series on different forms that we went over live here in the Glendale office. I got another series starting next week called JP, I've Got a Buyer. Now what do I do? That's a series of 4 classes followed by I've Got a Seller. Now what do I do? Which is going to be another series of 4 classes. But so we get a lot of agents that attend those, but they generally have the same challenge. I know this. I know what to do. I know the listing agreement. I understand the purchase contract. I've read it several times. I've attended your classes. I've gone to by the way, onecoaching.com. I don't want to get too far off the topic, but I just don't know how to generate leads. So I created a lead generation class. We're going to go over 30 different ways to generate leads today. Some of these you're going to get excited by and think, well, yeah, I can do this. Some you're going to think, no way in a million years would I ever do that. And that's okay. So all you need to do is take one, maybe two, boy, at the most three. You get beyond three and you get a little bit overwhelmed and things get watered down. And the truth is, we just, as human beings, don't do it, don't do anything. And then that kind of defeats the purpose of the class. So I'm going to encourage you to focus on one of these 30, maybe two of these 30. And if you want, we can schedule time for you to come on into the Glendale office. We can sit down and do a deep dive on actually how to do it. So today's class isn't so much on how to do these different lead generation methods, but we're just simply introducing the lead generation method to you. And I'm going to share very briefly my background with my experience, I should say, with several of these lead gen methods. As I was on the sales side for 30 years, those of you who know me have heard this before, that in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I never got a paycheck unless I sold a house. I was commission only for about 3 decades. Not anymore. Now with Realty One Group, I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, so that's kind of nice too. So, okay, let's dive in. Let's dive in. Okay, with the thumbs up, Jenny Benedetto, can you hear me good? Okay, let's do it. So this class is going to go, as I said, 40, 45 minutes. I'm going to stop after maybe 10 and we can chit chat for a couple of minutes and then we'll go on. So it's going to be at a fairly quick pace. So, okay, so a lot of these you already know. Some of these might be new to you, but I have a feeling with certain people here, especially Veronica Hughes. Veronica's been around a long time, sold a lot of houses. Some of this stuff I'm going to remind her of things that she perhaps already knows. So let's get to it. Number one is calling around recent sales. Now, we already know some of the newer people in the industry might not know this, but we do know that anytime there is a recent sale, a sale in a community, we generally have another homeowner, probably two, sometimes three, on that same street that list within the next 30 to 60 days. Now, why that is, I don't know, but I do know over and over and again, we have experienced that. When a home goes sells, there's another one that sells within the next 30 to 60 days. The next one is number two. Oh, we'll combine number one and number two in the same one so that we're still on number one. Calling around recent or calling around new listings. So what a wonderful way to contact the homeowners in the neighborhood to give them an opportunity to pick their neighbors, right? If they happen to know anybody that's interested in moving into the community. So how do you do that? Well, there's a couple of ways. I have got a book here, and now a lot of the stuff is just online, but this is a book full of different scripts. So it's hundreds of pages of real estate scripts based on, several different scenarios here. And in this case, we're talking about calling around new listings. So if you need scripts for anything that we're going to talk about today, just let me know, and we can make copies of the pages in the books that pertain to what you're looking for. You can check the book out for 2 or 3 days if you want as well. So how do you get phone numbers? There's so many different ways to get phone numbers nowadays, right? In the old days, we used to contact the marketing rep at the title company we were using. Now you can find anything you want online. There's going to be a fee for that. I would encourage you not to pick that choice that is the least expensive. There's usually a reason for that. Usually the numbers are not as accurate. The phone numbers are not as accurate. So number one of our 30, we got a long way to go, is calling around recent sales and calling around recent listings. So number two is door knocking. Yay for door knocking. If anybody likes door knocking, that was what I did. So number two is door knocking. And my story is this. So in 2000 and 2001, I personally knocked on 20,000 doors in North Glendale. And well, I guess there wasn't much in North Phoenix 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But in 2000 and 2001, I knocked on 20,000 doors, and my script was simply this. Hi, my name is JP Cook. I'm a real estate agent with Realty One Group, although I wasn't with Realty One Group at the time. Hi, my name is JP Cook. I'm a realtor with Realty One Group, and I was just walking in the neighborhood asking homeowners if they were considering buying or selling a home. Almost everybody says no, right? But you knock on that many doors, you find people who say yes. If they were to say no, my follow-up question would be, well, do you happen to know anybody? And then I give them ideas of who they might know, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anybody interested in buying or selling a home. Again, a lot of people say no, but some people do say, well, yeah, my cousin Joey, right? My Aunt Lisa's considering selling a home in Surprise. So I got quite a bit of business that way. And if they were to say no to that question, I would simply leave them with an item of value. Today, you can get much more creative than you could 26 years ago. 26 years ago, I just simply left them a business card with a magnet on the back of it. And 30, 60, 90 days later, my phone started to ring with these people who told me no. So why do you suppose, we'll pause just for a second here. Why do you suppose they said no when I met them at the door and 30 days later they called me wanting me to come over and list their home? Why did they say no 30 days earlier? Any idea? Well, the answer is because I was bothering them, right? They were cooking dinner, they were getting Susie ready for softball and Joey ready for whatever, doing homework. They took my card and they called me 30 days later when they were ready to go. So the point is, a no today does not mean a no in 30 days. All right. So remember that in your sales career. A no today does not mean a no in the future. So that's number two, door knocking. Number three is contacting absentee and out-of-state owners. Now, I love this one, contacting out-of-state and absentee owners. And the reason for that is very few agents are doing that. Very few agents are doing that. So there could be a potential gold mine there. So what is an absentee owner? An absentee owner is simply somebody who owns a home in the Phoenix area, in this case, probably Glendale or Surprise or anywhere in the Phoenix area, but they don't live in the Phoenix area. And in most cases, they don't even live in Arizona, right? A lot of Californians, a lot of Canadians. So that would be absentee owners. People who own a home here, do not live here, and probably don't know any real estate agents here. Okay, and again, with absentee owners, much like the phone numbers for calling around recent sales and new listings, and of course, you got to be cognizant of the do not call list as well. And nowadays, a lot of those services that you pay for, they scrub against that, so any numbers you get are in compliance, so you don't have to be too concerned with that. So contacting out-of-state and absentee owners, again, people who own a home here but do not live here, don't know agents here. Number four, working former or retired realtor databases. So we have a lot of agents, especially since we're so close to Sun City. We have a lot of agents that have been in the industry for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years, and they're getting out of the business now, right? They're retiring. They don't want to do it anymore. What a wonderful opportunity for you to take over their book of business. They've got 30, 50, hundreds of sales clients that they've worked with. And they don't want to work them anymore. So why not take them over and get a referral fee from that? Okay, so that's working former or retired realtor databases. Number five out of 30. Number five is adopting the client on the other side of the transaction. Adopting a client on the other side of the transaction. I call these orphan clients. Orphan clients. Now, the National Association of Realtors did a study many years ago asking buyers their thoughts on the agent they worked with. And although most everybody had a positive impression, positive things to say about the buyer's agent they worked with, when asked what their name was 6 months later, They didn't know. They forgot. How crazy is that? They forgot. And that's because the agent didn't stay in touch with them. So you want to stay in touch with your clients after the closing. But the vast majority, way, way, way higher than 50% of agents do not. So when you represent the seller in a transaction and you close, stay in touch with that buyer. Stay in touch with that buyer. They saw your sign every day they came to see the listing. They, for the inspection, while they're debating whether or not they wanted to write the offer, for their walkthrough, they know who you are as the listing agent. Continue to communicate with them after closing. Okay, those are called orphan clients. Number six, geographic farming. Geographic farming. And that is, trying to look for a postcard that I have here. I got a postcard that I did. So geographic farming is what a lot of agents think of when they think of lead generation. Geographic farming can take on many forms. A newsletter, postcard. I had a 10,000 postcard a month, actually every 15 days, so twice a month campaign that I ran for many years. Was that profitable? Yeah, I made a lot of money from that, but it's also very expensive. All right, so you have to be established or have a deeper bankroll that maybe I had at the time that would allow me to send out 10,000 postcards every 15 days to several communities that I was farming. Wonderful way to make money, but again, it cost quite a bit up front. I probably didn't have my first sale for maybe 6 months when I started that postcard campaign. So that's geographic farming. One thing I would encourage you to do if you do consider geographic farming is going what would that be? I don't want to say this the opposite way. Go a mile deep and an inch wide versus the opposite. In other words, it's better to send more postcards or newsletters, whatever the case may be for you, to fewer homes than it is to send fewer postcards to a lot of homes, right? It's better to hit one person 5 times than it is to hit, five people once, right? So go a mile deep and an inch wide. That is geographic farming. Number seven, sending just listed and just sold postcards. So I had a company do this for me called Postcard Mania. At the time, now we're going back probably 8 or 9 years. At the time, I did a tremendous amount of research, almost made myself sick with all the research I was doing on this to find the right company to handle my just listed and just sold information postcards. Nowadays, we can do that through OneSuite. If you know how to do that, if you don't, again, this isn't necessarily the class for teaching you how to do that, but you have access through OneSuite in your zone to be able to kind of do this for yourself now. But there are shops out there. Postcard Mania is the one that I use. They designed the postcard for me. They mailed it for me. I was completely hands off. Okay, so you can consider that. Just listed, just sold campaigns as well, either through an outside company or through OneSuite. The outside company is going to be a little bit easier for you, but it's also going to be a lot more expensive for you as well. Okay. They're going to design it and they're going to send it out for you. And they've got a design team to make a really beautiful postcard. Number eight, referrals from attorneys, accountants, and financial planners and divorce attorneys. Okay, so I never did that. But there is an agent that I know in Sun City who works with a couple of divorce attorneys and has no less than 10 to 15 deals a year directly from the divorce attorneys. So accountants, attorneys, financial planners, divorce attorneys. Number nine, referrals from your vendors and affiliates. So if you've got a handyman that you give a tremendous amount of business to, you've got a pool company, you've got a landscaper, right? That you refer a lot of business to and they make a lot of money from you. Why not let them know that you want their referrals, right? I've given you, 10 pools to maintain, to fix over the last 12 months. Do you know anybody, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anybody, kind of the script I used earlier when door knocking, that might be interested in buying or selling a home. If so, please let me know. All right. And number 10, contacting out of area agents for referrals. Contacting out of agent areas for referrals. So this was a big one for me. Door knocking was a big one for me. The postcard campaign that I mentioned earlier was a big one for me. This was also a one that I did quite a bit. So this is number 10, but it's the third one that I did a lot of. And that again is contacting out of area agents for referrals. So how in the hell do you do that? So there was a time, and I did this for no less than 10 years, where I would go to 4 different real estate conventions per year. And it would usually be the Summit, which is the Realty One Group yearly convention. I know Veronica's been to one, or at least one. Veronica's been to several when we had it in Vegas. Remember that, Veronica? Thumbs up. Yep. So, and then another one would be the National Association of Realtor Convention that they usually do in November. That could be all over the country. More often than not, I think it's in San Diego. And then 2 others, and there's a lot of others, right? And my goal would always be to network with other agents from all over the country, and get at least one referral from that, which more than pays for the cost of the plane ticket, the hotel, and the event. Okay, so that's networking out of area agents for referrals. In other words, attending conferences. And at the conference, I've got networking events as well. Okay, so that's number 10. Let's pause for just a moment. We've got 20 more to go. Any questions or thoughts so far? No? Okay. All right, let's move on to number 11. On to number 11. This is one I never did. I have no interest in doing this one, but some people do. And some people do with a lot of success, and that's why it's on the list. And that is contacting wedding planners and banquet hall sales personnel. Contacting wedding planners and banquet hall sales personnel. Somebody's getting married, generally speaking, what do they need, right? If they've already owned a home, maybe they're selling 2 homes and buying a home. So there's 3 sales right there, right? If they neither one of them own, perhaps they're going to buy together. So there's at least 1 sale right there. So contacting wedding planners and banquet hall sales personnel. Number 12, and I haven't done this one either, but I know of an agent named Ann, and Ann does a lot of this. Working with assisted living on-site sales personnel. Working with assisted living on-site sales personnel. So we can receive compensation from unlicensed people, or in this case, an entity. We just can't pay out. So senior centers or assisted living centers can pay real estate brokerages a referral for referring business to them, right? We just can't pay them, but they can pay us. Okay, so working assisted living on-site sales personnel with the assisted living on-site sales personnel. Number 13, and I did do this one. I did this one for a couple of years, and I didn't get anything out of it, but there are people that do this exclusively, and that is networking associations. I was a member of a networking association for a couple of years, and the way mine worked, and just as a general description of how most every one of them works, is, they got two accountants, 2 plumbers, 2 real estate agents, two whatever. I can go on and on and on. And they meet once a month, maybe a couple times a month. Maybe everybody talks for 20 to 30 seconds for a minute. And then if anybody in that group has anybody that needs that type of service, you're the go-to. So that's networking associations. And you can find that online, of course, right? Networking associations in Phoenix, Glendale. Number 14, contacting banks for REO business. Now, this was a big deal 15 years ago, and perhaps it will be a big deal in the next few years. And the reason I say that is we have seen a significant increase in the Glendale office, and I imagine in all offices, in the number of short sales this office has processed over the last 90 days. We have had more short sales in the Glendale office over the last 90 days than we easily have in the last 3 or 4 years, right? So I wouldn't say a lot, but I would say there are more short sales now than there have been at any time over the last 15 years. Over the last 15 years. So what does that unfortunately lead to? A lot of it leads to REO, which stands for real estate owned. That is a full true foreclosure where the bank now owns the home. The homeowner doesn't own the home anymore once it's an REO. So you contact the banks, and there's a whole process for that. I taught a class back in my coaching days on how to generate REO business. Okay, contacting banks for REO business, and that's a whole process that if you're interested in that, we can talk about that as well. Number 15. So we're almost halfway done. Number 15, and this is very similar to number 14, working notice of default homeowners. Working notice of default homeowners, NOD, notice of default. And what is that? Well, that's basically homeowners who have not paid their monthly mortgage payment, right? And you contact them, and boy, this is a real soft approach because pretty much every one of them at this stage, and there's different stages of this, at this stage, at the notice, we'll call it the notice of default stage, they're in denial. And I say that as respectfully as I can. You know, we haven't paid our house payment in 60 days and 90 days, but I'm going to be getting a job soon. I'm going to be getting a job, and that's all going to turn around. I talked to my attorney, and this lawsuit, this settlement's going to happen any day now. Any day now, it's going to give me the money that's going to be able to bring me current on my monthly payments. There's always they're at this stage, they're hoping that they're going to be able to do it, and some do, but I will say, unfortunately, most don't. Most don't. So it's a soft touch notice of defaults, and basically what that leads to is a short sale, which is what I mentioned earlier. We've seen an increase in short sales. Short sales start with a notice of default, but they eventually end up being it doesn't sell via short sale. It ends up being that REO business, which we had as number 14. Okay, so working notice of default homeowners, and again, similar common theme here. You can look it up on Google, how to get notice of default addresses, contact information. So let's go to number 16. This is a fun one. I did this several times. Number 16 is client appreciation events. Client appreciation events. So you rent a movie theater, which is ridiculously cheap and almost free at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, right? And what a lot of agents will do is they will partner with a couple of other agents in their office, right? Because they may say, well, my gosh, JP, I've only got 10 sales, or I only got 50 sales. And you're telling me that maybe 40% of my clients will actually show up to this event. So half of those, it's not worth it. So what they'll do is they'll team up with a couple of other agents, and Nathan's put probate on here, and that's actually going to be one of them a little later in the talk. So they will team up with other agents and share expenses, and create an event that would be much bigger than it would be if they did it on their own. Now, if you're on a big team, Nas is on a big team with Lisa Glomsky and Paul O'Connell, House AZ. They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of past clients, but most people do not. So, client appreciation events, renting a space in a park, a movie theater, things like that. Number 17, this is also something that I did quite a bit. Number 17 is sponsoring of local sports teams, especially when my kids were young, right? Sponsoring my son's hockey team, sponsoring my daughter's softball team, um, different things they did at the school. I mean, they have a folder that used to come home every day, and I'd have a big ad inside the folder, so the parents in the area that I was farming at the time would see my smiling face every time they opened up their kid's folder for school. Okay, so sponsoring of local schools and athletic programs. Number 18. This is super popular. Number 18 is probably the most popular one on here, especially with the younger agents. And that is social media postings, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They can get super creative, especially with the videos. But remember that the Department of Real Estate changed the advertising guidelines in December of 2025. So what, about 6 months ago, um, make sure that the brokerage name is prominently displayed. Make sure the brokerage name is prominently displayed, Realty One Group. Okay, so that is social media postings. And again, you can get super creative with those. Number 19. I did this for a short amount of time. And the community I was working with no longer allows locals to do that, but I got in at an early date, at an early time, I should say, which allowed me to do that. So number 19 is writing a weekly, or in my case, it was a monthly column for my local homeowners association magazine. My local homeowners association magazine. So this is in the community of Bastancia, and this was 22 years ago, back in 2004, 5, maybe 6. Um, so that's something to consider as well. Number 20, and then we'll take another little break here. Number 20, actually, yeah, number 20, contacting expired listings by phone or at their door. Expired listings. So again, that book that I showed has got some great scripts on expired listings, right? And what to say when you call. Now, I will tell you that there is a little kind of an art to it. And here's a pro tip. I'm going to call it a pro tip. Here's a pro tip to calling expired listings. When a listing is newly expired, there's a lot of agents that are calling. A lot of agents that are calling. What I encourage agents to do is call those expired listings that are 60 to 90 days old, because those are people, those are homeowners who still want to sell their home. Nobody's contacting them anymore, and they've had an opportunity to breathe and to calm down and, understand that, the home didn't sell. They still want to sell it. And at that point, they're ready to look at some more options. When the home is just expired, there's a lot of emotion. The home expired yesterday. I got a million agents contacting me. I don't want to talk, right? But you wait 60 to 90 days. These people still want to sell their home. They've had enough time to calm down, maybe approach it differently, and no agents are calling them. So contact expired listings that are 60 to 90 days expired. Okay, so before we go to 21, we are 2/3 of the way done. We're doing really good on time. It's 10:30. Anything on items 11 through 20? No? My friend Q on here? There she is. Q just had her first sale, or will be having her first sale here in the next couple of days. Okay, let's continue forward then. Number 21, contacting for sale by owners by phone or at their door. So what would be a reason somebody would be a for sale by owner, right? What would be a reason? This is really simple. Nas, do you know the answer? Why does somebody want to do for sale? Why would a homeowner want to do for sale by owner? Don't want to deal with an agent. That's right. Yeah, they don't want to pay the compensation. They don't want to pay the compensation. But we know a couple of things. And this is, although what I'm about to say is absolutely true, convincing the seller or not convincing, that kind of sounds, um, educating the seller in a way that they can understand, accept, and act on is a couple things. Number one, we know that homes that are not listed by an agent tend to sell for at least 3% lower. They just absolutely do. So the homeowner is not saving any money most times by not working with an agent. Secondly, and I think his name is Victor. If you looked it up on Google, you could probably find it. There is the founder of ForSaleByOwner.com. This is a guy who has written books on how to sell whatever you're trying to sell by owner. Has websites, again, created written books for salebyowner.com. His name is Victor or Salvador or something like that. And he listed his home in New York State for 6 months. It was a condo, did not sell, and he listed it with an agent, and within 3 weeks it sold. Right? So if somebody who is writing books on how to sell things yourself tried it for 6 months and it didn't work, boy, I think that's pretty strong. I think that's pretty strong, right? So contacting for sale by owners by phone or at their door. And there's different value you can bring to them. And again, each one of these, I kind of debate in my head how deep I go into because there's different things I can say on each one of them. But again, I just kind of want to make it surface level. And if you want to dive deeper into any one of these, let me know and we can do that. So that's contacting for sale by owners at their door or by phone or by mail. Okay, number 22. We're going to combine a couple into number 22. Number 22 would be contacting your center of influence, your database for referrals, and contacting your past client database for referrals. So if you have got your sphere of influence and your past client database, again, not only do we want to not make our past clients orphans, which was number 3 on our list, we also want to take that a step further and always remind them that we appreciate their referrals. Again, I'm going to say the script for the 3rd time today. If you know of anybody, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anybody, you give them examples of who they might know, not just do you know anybody, giving them examples, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anybody. And that's how I would say anybody, kind of in a silly way. So interested in buying or selling a home, we'd appreciate your referrals. Okay. Number 23, and this is separate from 22, although it is very similar. Asking current clients for referrals. So why is that different than number 22? 23 is asking current clients, sellers and buyers for referrals. So let's take sellers for example. What would be an ideal time to ask a seller for a referral? Or reminding them, and not necessarily asking them referral, but reminding them that if they know anybody, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, anybody interested in buying or selling a home, you're happy to help. So tell me when would be, this is a good crowd in terms of the number of people we have in the Zoom, but I don't think anybody said anything yet. So somebody answer the question, what is a good time to ask a seller for a referral? Anybody know? At closing. Boy, that's a good one. Yep, there's 2 good answers, and that's one of them. Oh my gosh. I need a monitor here. We've got a lot of text over here, so I'm going to look at that in just a second. So after closing, Naz, that's correct. When you have an offer, that's another good one. Absolutely. When you have an offer and at closing. And a third one might be when you take the listing, right? Homeowners are usually extremely happy the moment they put the home on the market with you, right? They're sometimes not happy. I think when you have an offer is good, assuming the offer is good, right? If it's a bad offer, maybe not. The time to ask for referrals is not during the inspection period when a homeowner is getting beat up on 30 different repairs that the buyer's asking for on the Binzer, right? That's not the ideal time. The ideal time is not when there is an appraisal issue and the seller says the home's worth 500,000, the buyer agreed, but the appraiser said it's not worth a penny more than 490,000. That's not a good time to ask for referrals. So closing, once the offer is accepted or once they receive an offer, assuming it's a quality, good offer, and then when you take the listing. Those are generally speaking the three times that the homeowner is most happy, right? Most happy. Okay, what number was that? That was number 23. Okay, number 24 is something that I did quite a bit of, but I'm not sure, and you agents on this call might know more about this one than I do, and that is contacting local home builders. So again, going back 26 years ago, I went to several home builders in the West Valley, whether they be North Peoria, North Glendale, Surprise, North Phoenix, and talked with their sales agents, right? And they've got a lot of people that come in there, and for whatever reason, maybe they don't like a certain model, maybe they don't qualify for that price point, but they see a lot of buyers in and out of those sales offices. So if you developed a relationship with them, perhaps they would refer those buyers to you, right? And a lot of times those buyers have a home to sell as well. So number 24 is contacting local home builders. Number 25, and I did a lot of these too. So this is probably the sixth one out of the 25 that I did quite a bit of. Informational seminars for first-time buyers. That's 25. Informational seminars for first-time buyers, where I would rent space in a HOA building or some type of community center of some sort, conference room, wherever we have can get an open space, and I would talk for 30 minutes, 40 minutes on buying and selling real estate, and then I'd have a lender that would talk for 5 minutes, a home inspector that would talk for 5 minutes, an escrow officer that would talk for 5 minutes, and then we'd open it up for 10 minutes of Q&A. Okay, so that is number 25, informational seminars for first-time buyers. Number 26, and I did this as well. I did this at the Walmart at Bell and 59th Avenue, probably 25 years ago. And I don't know that you do this anymore, but I'm putting everything on here just to kind of give you ideas. Informational kiosk at a Walmart, at a shopping center, at a mall, right? And back in those days, and perhaps they still have it now, thousands and thousands of people, perhaps every day, walk past you. So we had a booth set up and it looked really nice. And I probably got 3 or 4 sales from that over a year period, which is certainly nothing great, but it's better than nothing. So information kiosk would be number 26. Number 27, I think Nathan had mentioned this earlier, and that is probate, right? Working probate deals, number 27. There's an agent that I coached for several years in Pasadena, California, named Douglas Lee, and Douglas Lee does a tremendous amount of probate work. Number 28, and we're going to go a little bit over 30. I think I got 32 here, so 5 more. Number 28 is working your website leads, and what I mean there is primarily through pay-per-click, right? Through Google Ads, pay-per-click. And you've got a website with the Realty One Group. It's your first name, your last name, .my Realty One Group, I believe is what it is. And it's already been created for you. If you're not aware of it, it's already been created for you. And we got classes on how to add some bells and whistles, and it's free, right? So that's good as well. So number 28 is working your website. Number 29 is very expensive. Very expensive. And we have an agent in our PV office that used to do a tremendous amount of this, and that is radio and television commercials. Radio and television commercials. Now, what's big with that right now is, well, in any event, radio and television commercials is number 29. That could be very expensive, though. Number 30. This is a good one. I simply have here on my little my note here, buying internet leads online. And what I would recommend right now, and 5 years ago, probably wouldn't have said this, and who knows, 5 years from now, maybe I won't say it. But right now, I think the best opportunity for agents who want to buy internet leads is through homes.com, through homes.com. And I've got a contact number if you want to write this down if you're interested in number 30. Betsy Yarborough. I don't know how to spell her last name, but her first name is Betsy, and her phone number is 530-591-4037. Again, that's 530-591-0437. And she's an account rep with homes.com. We've actually had her live in our Glendale office a couple times to speak with our agents. And she can go into great detail on how to get leads from hotels.com. Or excuse me, not hotels.com, homes.com. I just got back from vacation, right? 5 days in San Diego, and then came home for 2 days, and then I went camping in Payson, north of Payson, for 3 days. So, and this will be the last time I ever sleep in a tent, I'll tell you that. All right, I'm almost 55 years old, and sleeping in a tent is not fun anymore. Okay, so that is number 30. So there's two more, one of which might be the most popular source of lead gen that we haven't discussed yet. And I'm going to see if agents know what that is. But number 31, and I got two more here. Number 31, and we're about almost 10:45, so we're doing on time what I was hoping we would do, is something that we don't see too much anymore of, but back in the old days we did, and that is sitting floor time. So back in the day, buyers and sellers would just simply walk into real estate offices and say they want to buy or sell a home and ask who the agent on call would be. We call that floor time, right? We don't see that anymore. Nobody walks in the front door at the Glendale office asking for a real estate agent because they want to buy and sell a home. Now, I've been in this position for almost 5 years, and I have seen it maybe twice, but one time for sure in 5 years. So it's certainly nothing that is pretty is not common anymore. Okay, we have one more lead gen method, and we have not yet discussed, and it is probably the most common source of lead gen, and most everyone on this call has done it many times. Does anybody know what it is? And thank you for posting Betsy's number. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back, JP. Thank you, Q. I'm looking at these in the chat box here. Want to work together, shoot me a message and I'll be happy to assist as a probate. Yes. So Nathan, who's on the call here, Nathan is one of our agents here at Realty One Group Glendale, and he is also an attorney. He's also an attorney. So you can connect with him. It says happy to assist here as a probate and estate planning attorney. And if you want, and Nathan, if you'd like to put your phone number or your address in the chat box so agents can see that, you're certainly welcome to do that. Where do you find expired listings? Well, you first of all, you find them, Jenny, on MLS. But the question really is, so number one on MLS, and then number two, then once you found the listings on MLS, how do you actually find their contact information? And there are services that I can connect you with that do that. Now there is a fee for that, but they'll do that for you. Okay, don't want to deal with agent after you sell the home at closing, prior to closing. When you have an offer, I was trying to JP was the days list. Sometimes the house may take. Yep. Okay, so the final way to generate, there you go. Nathan just posted his phone number on here in the chat. So As many of you put on the chat, the final way to generate leads is through open house. Now, my first sale ever was via open house. Now, the wonderful part about open house is number one, it doesn't cost anything. Well, the cost of the signs, but it doesn't cost anything. You can do an open house anytime. I coached an agent for many years. Her name is Stacy Woods. She's with a different company, but she is in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she only did one of these 32 lead gen methods, and that was open house. So she would do an open house during the week, a minimum of one during the week, and a minimum of one every weekend. So either a Saturday or Sunday. So what's the advantage of doing it on the weekend? Well, the advantage of doing it on the weekend is people tend to be out looking at open houses on the weekend. So you get a lot of traffic. What's the disadvantage of doing it on the weekend? You walk outside the door and there's 3 or 4 open house signs on the same street, right? So you have other agents who are also doing open houses on the weekend. So what's the benefit and disadvantage of doing it during the week? And it's just the exact opposite. You have no competition at all from other agents. And anybody who walks into an open house on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. or whatever, those are serious buyers. Those are serious buyers. So you have far fewer buyers who will walk into your home on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. But those who do, they're pretty serious about buying a home, right? So the challenge that most agents have that Stacy does not have is she adopted a very different mindset with regards to open house. So what most agents do is they'll do an open house, especially if they do it during the week, and they'll not only not get a sale from it, but nobody will even come into the home. And they'll immediately think to themselves the worst. What a waste of time. I'm never doing that again. 3 hours of my life sitting in this open house all by myself, and I haven't had any traffic come in, let alone a sale. I'm never doing this again. What a waste of time. That's not how she looks at it. She looks at it instead of what happened today. She looks at it, takes a big picture long-term approach to it, looking at it over the course of a year. And although she would do it on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday this week and perhaps not even get anybody show up, she knows that over a 52-year week she's going to get several sales from it, and she does. Right? So if you commit to it and an approach where you're doing an open house once a week and then once on the weekend, and you did nothing else. You ignored the other 31 ways to generate leads. Over the course of a year, you're going to be thrilled with your results, although you may be disappointed in your results in the moment. Okay, so take that approach as well. Okay, so we've gone 50 minutes, which is about as long as I thought we were going to go. Yeah, virtual open house, Kim. Yep, absolutely. Virtual open house could be another one, but I package that into open house as well. Q says, thank you, JP, for this class. Have a great day. Okay, guys, unless you have any other questions, I'm going to let you go. But again, you've got a lot here. I've given you 32 different ways to generate leads. If any of these are exciting to you, jot down 1 or 2 or 3 and come on into the office. Ideally, we schedule time so we know that I'm available, and we'll do a deeper dive in how to do all of this. Okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.